I do. So
Right on.
we're just going to kick it off with afternoon, everybody. This is a special behind the scenes edition of Far Reaches podcast. We're going to have a little kind of the genesis of this adventure, if you will. It's myself, Micah, and my eternal co-host, Mr. Rawley Bigsby. And, we're doing a little bit of Zoom time here, and hopefully get this posted. But in case not everybody knows, or just a whole backstory of why we're doing what we do, and I guess we wonder that part of the time ourselves, Rawls. I'm sort of the hub that's a friend with everybody on the podcast and knows everybody to varying degrees. But at this point, not everybody on the podcast has actually even met yet. And how this all really kind of came to be is Rawley and I would talk quite a bit, several times a week sometimes, and we'd have like an hour or so conversation, and in the end we're like, dang, I didn't know the podcast, man. We should have like recorded this for some sort of reasons unbeknownst to us even. And so we just kept talking about that. Well, it's been a year and a half, 2 years ago, Ross, when we started kind of kicking it around.
Yeah, I suppose it's had to have been at least 2 years. And I think the 4 people that are in it now were originally mentioned. I mean, it was kind of like, when the thought developed, those names all came up just because of their interesting lifestyles and backgrounds and perspective on varying subjects. So it's always kind of been in the works since the forethought, and it finally developed.
Yeah, I was thinking the other day, when you and I first talked, I'm like, well, who can we get to do this? And like, gotta have Bradbury, and then we talked about we gotta have Joel as well, just because of, like you were saying, is the 2 of us are from the same place and 2 of us are from the other, and then we're all just scattered in many, many ways. And then when we finally kind of talked to everybody, and Richard was like, maybe that sounds good, and Joel was like, yeah, whatever, sure, make something happen. And then when we were talking about it, I remember how long it's been, because somebody, I think Joel, about like, well, let's get together at Roundup and we can do one there. And I'm like, well, we should sure as heck have one or more done by Roundup time, Well, guess what? Roundup came and went, and we hadn't done anything. Richard wasn't even at Roundup. I was at Lake County Roundup and at Pendleton. But Richard didn't get to Pendleton, and we didn't do anything. And then I got laid off in late December, and we were talking one day, and I'm like, I guess there's no more excuses of why, why we're not doing this. I've got some time. Yeah.
Throw it at the wall and see what sticks.
Yeah, I was kind of relying on Richard. Had a podcast before called Dirt Simple, which was really fun, and I did one of his episodes, and I was like, well, Bradbury, he knows how to do it. He'll take care of it. And then Richard obviously has a life and a wife and kids and a job. So he was like, well, it's not that hard. And so I was like, yeah, well, somebody should do it. And then again, finally, like, all right, I'll just start digging in. And then here we are. Yeah. So it's been entertaining, to say the least. And Richard was a bit apprehensive, I think, just to figure out what the hell we're going to be talking about.
Probably something we should have looked at sooner, because once the initiative really kicked in, it wasn't all that difficult to get it put together. But,
no, and I know we're not doing it the smartest way or the best way or reaching out to the most, or there's a lot of things we could be doing different. We'll probably look at them, but for now, like it's simple. Yeah.
It's kind of the way things have always been done, though. Not always the smart or the most thought out way to do it, but we did it anyway.
We're grinding through it, Yeah, it's improvise and overcome, or some redneck ingenuity. So it's just found a free program called Anchor that pretty much does everything for you, especially the publishing part, which can be a pain to send it all the different places, and the recording and mixing the stuff together. But it doesn't take hardly any time now to get it once we complete the magic, to get it rolling. But
no, and I think it's exciting now that we're starting to add some guest speakers and people in there to add some new stories. And I don't really know what all the feedback has been as far as viewership. I've had a few people reach out to me and say, hey, it's cool, we enjoy listening and having a lot of fun. listening to your guys' chaotic stories, but I think the future for it should be pretty good. Probably scheduling is the most difficult part at this time, getting all four of us together on the same page.
Yeah, we're sort of getting into a groove a bit now, but let's see how long we can hold that. But
yeah, with the coronavirus, Joel's schedule seems to be pretty open, and
yeah,
Richard kind of hard to track down with ranch and life, but be adjusting.
Richard can be hard to track down pretty much anytime, though. It's not just that's just standard operating procedure, because he's got to know where he's at before he can tell us, and so that's part of the problem, or the challenge. Not really a problem; it's just part of the challenge. One of the joys of working with Richard on anything. So we'll see what becomes of it. But I really enjoyed the last episode we did talking to Barry Qualley and getting some of his. Just getting a chance to talk to some of these guys and getting some of their story down and finding out who they are a bit more and exposing them to somebody who hasn't heard them. I think that's a really cool thing. We had some great response out of that, and people sending suggestions of who to talk to next, which has been neat.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of fun. I think there's a lot of gentlemen and folks that are older than us that have a lot of stories to add in that we need to probably get recorded. We've discussed that before.
Uh-huh.
There are people to get on, but there's some that we really should sooner than later, just to make sure we've got some video footage, or so to speak, of the surrounds them.
Yeah, one in particular comes to mind. That's Bob O'Rourke at Pendleton. I've been talking for way too many years that I need to sit down with him and get some of more of his stories. And, like I told him a long time ago, I already got the title of his book. It's called The Bob O'Rourke Story. Let me tell you this about that, because that's pretty much Bob, But you're dead right. I think if nothing else, we can continue to focus a bit on that and try to get some of those great stories captured as well as we can for what that might be worth. But
and I think it's fun to take I know you're getting more feedback. You've kind of taken the hands on the putting it up social media and all the places that it goes, and I think it's fun that we can get some feedback and have some other ideas to throw in. I mean, like we were just talking yesterday about you were cooking something and it was leftovers, and there's another topic just jumped up to the podcast. So I suppose that the parameters are kind of endless, which it's just a matter of which rat hole we crawl down that particular day.
Yeah, I think there was a bit of blind luck on our part by not naming it anything in particular, or having that be our mission to explore the reaches of it's just whatever we want to talk about. I think is the great part, or where our mind leads us is. I think anybody that's listened to any of them kind of knows we do ramble around a bit, but it's still fun for us.
Yeah, there's no particular set playlist or script that we're following. We kind of have an idea of the movies and the word of the day and that sort of thing. But
yeah, I think I did add some of that stuff for a little bit more of a structure to help us to get to the next point where we can ramble from. But it's sort of like the random roadmap. Like, well, we're here, and then we're going to wander God knows where. Yeah.
Well, and anybody that knows us, that's something they look forward to, is what's going to fall out of their mouth next. So
yeah, like I was telling you yesterday, a friend of ours that when she's listening, I'll just get like text messages that like kind of alludes to where she's at. Like, oh, you're busting on him for dyslexia. That's all I get. It doesn't say, and then a couple laughy signs, that's all. Because she's probably at work or driving and can't say too much. But I kind of know where she's at as the quirks come out and the little snippets here and there. But it's very funny for that, and the random feedback. So that's been the best part.
Yeah, definitely. I should probably pay more attention to it, but I if I get it shared on Facebook every week, I'm lucky.
Yeah, we all got other things going on at the same time. Despite everybody's thoughts, we're not making $1 million on this yet. So
Well,
It's
I
coming. Yeah.
don't know
But
how successful I'd be at it anyways without my wife. She just, as you well know, put this Zoom thing together for me, and I'm still trying to figure out what button does what.
it's great behind the scenes. Someday we'll have to delve into that. But the final words were, Micah, you owe me. Yeah. And so, which I
Yeah.
said, yeah, I owe you a lot already, but thanks anyways for getting heard it up in front of the iPad this afternoon so we could have a little more behind the scenes. But yeah, again, for those of you who don't really know, like Rawley and I met in college. Is that when it was?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably been about, gosh, 90, I don't know,
7 or
98.
8, somewhere 97 or 98. Yeah. Damn, when you say it out loud like that, it seems a lot longer ago than it was.
Yeah. And that, at the was it the first, or I think it
Inaugural.
was like the first official annual powwow from back in the day, the Marty Campbell annual Memorial Day
Yeah,
gathering.
I was at the first one, I think. Yeah, because it was me and Marty and Bark and Badger and yeah, we were
Yeah,
down there by the creek and
there was Mandy and Marty and
Tammy.
Tammy and you and myself and Lockie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, who
Yeah.
could forget?
Oh, leak swim drinks. Yeah. So
Yeah, there were a lot of stories started that weekend. It's
we'll
sure a lot
have
of
to
fun.
have a powwow edition sometime. But those of you who weren't around, it was a Memorial Day, wasn't it?
Yep,
Just
Memorial Day
snowed
weekend.
or rained. Memorial Day weekend, we'd all go camping in teepees out by Starkey, and it's sort of annual tradition that grew every year. So it looked like the Sioux Nation was camping out at one point. There was
Yeah.
cornered the market on teepees for several summers, but that was one of my roommates and friends, Marty Campbell. That was his brainchild, and that led to many fine moments. Yeah,
And debauchery comes to mind.
debauchery and people earning dollars the hard way. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's where I first met Raleigh, and Richard was from high school days, and then he was a year behind me, I think, in high school, and then we were random roommates in college. He would just kind of blow into town, and he'd have a Keystone box with several items in it, and that was his moving in a saddle, and then he'd stumble in the door, and then he'd be gone, and yeah, and so and then I met Joel when I moved to Pendleton, and so my favorite communist, as I used to call him, because he would have some pretty intense discussions and drive everybody else around us crazy when we'd be at Hamley's talking about the finer points of politics. So yeah, it was for a long time. It was my favorite communist, and yeah, we like to sort of gang up and beat up on his brother Brian mentally whenever we could, or when Brian let it slip that he didn't have a texting plan on his flip phone. And it cost a dime or a nickel every time he got a text. And so Joel and I heard that. And then that was just our daily mission, just to text Big Daddy random things. So it would cost him money on his texting plan, so. Till he broke. He broke like a dry twig in the wind and had to get a texting plan and eventually an iPhone. But he had that freaking folding death-defying phone that had a battery that lasted about 40 hours. I don't know why we ever left with those phones, but yeah, poor Brian. But that's kind of the tie that brought Joel and I together, was just really tormenting his brother. So
Yeah.
and you and I can relate to that too.
Yeah. No, there was definitely an interesting dynamic between the core group of people that kind of hung out there around Pendleton.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of you guys golfed. You might have taken me once or twice. And,
oh yeah.
There's golf courses don't allow me to golf, so.
There your golf bag with a couple of old woods and like 9 different 7-irons of all shapes and sizes, and that was
a good
awesome.
buy at a yard sale.
That was awesome.
$5. Yeah, there was several 9-irons in there and a few 2s, and
a lot of 9-irons, yeah. But you could hit the crap out of it, though. Yeah, you got so much torque. It was just we didn't know anywhere it was going to go. We thought the head might explode and just be wooden shrapnel everywhere. But it was well worth the entertainment just to get you out.
Well, somebody should explain to me that there are actually rules to golfing.
Yeah, there's interpreted differently depending on the style of the game. Yeah, just go
Yeah.
that way was really kind of all we were worried about. So
Put the ball in the hole.
we played golf with pot roast. Rules are really more of a suggestion. So
Yeah.
those of you playing along at home, pot roast will be revealed in many later segments. I think we need some FBI clearance to really talk about pot roast.
Yeah, definitely one that needs to be on the podcast, though, at least once.
My dream is Friday night dinner at Semioti's with the roast and swine flu and just the herd that we would have at our table, and just really let it rip, tater chip.
There might be some subscription loss after that one, but
if they're still listening by this point, they're not going to get shook off of that. No, that's a bold statement. There might be some people pulled off the side of the road just kind of hugging themselves and really like, I gotta call my wife. I just love her so much. Yeah, you're just gonna like shake to the core. But hey,
over there sucking their thumb, looking down a culvert.
Yeah. I was waiting for that reference. Yeah. There's some people that think that Carl might be my dad, or that we were separated at 50 years of birth or something.
How about I believe it was Tia's wedding when I introduced you to.
Tia Paul's wedding. Yeah. Yeah.
I had serious thoughts about that before I did it, but it certainly has never been the same since.
No, Mr. Roast has not been the same, nor have I, nor was anybody at that wedding that got in the swath that we all cut through that thing. Thank God it still happened. But yeah, I hadn't been to town very long since when I moved to Pendleton from the west side of the state. I hadn't been in town very long when that wedding kicked off, and that's when I met who would later become known as the Colonel of the Roast. Yeah. I woke up in the back seat of my car, and you were in the front seat, and like I was doing like the atomic power splits because I was in the back seat, but you had folded down the driver's seat to a really extreme degree, I might add. So I didn't think I was that flexible. I probably really not, but that's how I woke up. That was beautiful. That's when I had the raging bull. Yeah.
Every time I think of those stories, Ty Campbell was always going to write a book and title it "Adventures in Ignorance."
Yeah.
And there's a million stories.
One of the two. Yeah. One of the two. Yeah. Oh, there's a plethora of material for sure. Yeah.
Hopefully he writes that book.
That would be. We'll have to get. I'm sorry. I call everybody by their powwow name or their nickname in my phone, and so I was just going to say we're going to have to get Spatula on sometime, just because I think the some of those stories that would come winding back of how he got the name Spatula Herb for one. Yeah.
And the Crisco Kid.
And the Crisco Kid. Yeah. We're not saying you can't own a spatula. I'm not saying you can't carry a spatula. You just can't carry a spatula in town.
That was a long night.
We watched the sun come up at the powwow. Yeah. Yeah. You and me, Spatula and Erwinch and Rube, and I don't remember who else. I don't think everybody else had probably fallen off by then, but
yeah, I think Jake Spoon might have been up.
Was there Spoon? Yeah, might have been Spoon. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting when you can just bounce from one story to the next, and they all kind of tie together.
Oh, they do. There is a common thread amongst them all. Yeah, and that's one of Kurt's favorite things. The roundup every year. We're sitting in the stands, and his mom will come 1 or 2 days, and he's like, "Hey, Micah, show my mom your phone." I'm like, "What?" And he wants to see like the names of people that are in my phone, because nobody's got their real name in my phone, And so she'll like, "Well, who's that?" "Oh, that's my dad." "Who's that?" That's Kurt's wife." "Who's that?" "That's Brian Kern." It's like it doesn't make any sense to anybody that's not been there for the whole genesis of the name.
And they're all earned.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like some people are like, "I don't have a name yet." They haven't earned it, I guess. It's one of those moments. Sometimes we meet and 5 minutes later you have a name, and then some people it's constantly evolving too. So, or they don't get one for, I don't know. It just has to happen. Yeah. really awkward when I'd send somebody a contact, like, hey, Mikey, can you send me so-and-so's contact information? And, you know, on your iPhone, you can just text contact.
Yeah.
So I'll send it. And they're like, who the hell's swine flu? Oh, sorry, that's Bill Weisenflu, but that's what he is in my phone. It's swine flu. So you can change that as you feel necessary. Yeah.
Or what's Junior under in there? That I gotta know.
Why'd you pick his? It says nice lady. Yeah.
I picked his for his benefit of watching this later.
I appreciate that. Yeah. Yeah. It's nice lady. Yeah. So, and somebody asked me for Brian Kearns the other day, and I sent it, and they're like, Big Daddy? Really? Yeah, Big Daddy. You can change that on your phone so your husband doesn't get freaked out, but that's Big Daddy. Yeah. So, like your wife, she's still Europe in my phone.
Yeah. No. That was a pretty quick, like,
yeah. Colby was pretty much in Cheddar, or Velveeta spearheaded that one, but it's Doc. I liked it. Yeah. So kind of the international incident that was unfolding before our eyes. So.
Well, her nickname is Reckless Kelly.
Yeah, there's that too. Yeah. It's becoming more appropriate every day, but I wait for a crutch to come flying past your head. Like,
I think we're being ignored right now.
She's definitely gained that skill over these past months. There's no doubt about that. Yeah.
A necessity.
Oh, for survival. Yeah, let me check and see if those. Oh, that's too funny. Yeah, and so that's what sort of was the idea behind this, is we need to capture when we talk to each other, and then spread that out, and hopefully capture other people too that we need to talk to, like Rawley. You're like when we had Kel on the second episode to talk about how she was seeing COVID impact her as a nurse, and then just that extra insight. But so it's, you know, it's capturing those stories. It's getting, you know, Joel's point of view and input. Like, what the hell do you mean turning cows out? You know, and I'm fairly attentive, I think, sometimes, and that never crossed my mind that was something that not everybody knew. You know, that's the main thing is you know, shining some more light maybe on ag and the beef industry and that lifestyle a bit more, answering some of those questions, learning some more about, you know, where Joel lives and what he does and why he lives there. And you know, that's a fun place to go visit. I mean, don't get me wrong. I have a blast when I go there. But then you think, like, can I be here like every day? I don't know, you know. So, and you know, and I live somewhere absolutely in the middle of both, because I'm in the middle of the country, and it's kind of country, but it's definitely got a city vibe if you want it to. So it, as usual, I got both feet in a slippery pile. So
yeah, I know that New York City's for me.
I think it's fun. You almost, I remind, like Crocodile Dundee would be like taking you to New York. Yeah.
Probably so.
Well, we went to some of the best concerts, like Red Dirt concerts I've been to, have been in New York Terminal 5. It was really fun. We had a blast. And so, you know, it's just it's like Vegas, but bigger, because like anything you can think of is no more than 2 or 3 blocks away at any time of day. It doesn't matter. Anytime at all. Yeah. So that kind of thing. And, you know, you just get used to that as like fingertip. Like you order stuff on Amazon, like it shows up that afternoon, you know, it's like, it's crazy. So it's a whole different frame of mind and lifestyle and demand and involvement, you know.
I can't even around what just so many people, and if things go sideways, then what, you know?
Oh yeah, absolutely. We're seeing some of that. You know, it's not necessarily. It's just, I think the people don't have any concept of if something doesn't come from where I usually get it, or it's not how it usually is. What do I do? Or the fact that, you know, dude, some people don't even have a refrigerator that, you know, big enough to hold more than a week's worth of stuff, or their, you know, like their apartment, you can't hold 3 months worth of food and canned goods and crap. Like, like that's how I was raised. Like we had huge pantries and we canned and we had a massive garden, and then you raised beef, and, you had two or three or four freezers,
Right.
You could survive without going to town for a year. Warning, Rawley's eating on the podcast. Sorry, Rawls had that.
You got her to listen.
Oh, that's good. Now comes the crutch. But, so it's completely different mindset. Like, you don't think about like harvest and like, I'm going to get a deer this year and I get an elk, butchered a steer. That's all going in the freezer. I caught some fish. I got some canned stuff or this, that. It's different.
It's funny you mention harvest, because in the culture around here, we'll still have big celebrations for after the harvest. I mean, it'd be, the wheat harvest around Pendleton and the Pendleton Roundup.
Yeah.
It's a customary thing to celebrate the lifestyle out here in the culture. And I can't think of hardly any communities out west that at some point, whether it's a county fair or a rodeo or something, that there's not a celebration of the way that they live their life.
That's such a great point. I hadn't really thought that out, but yeah, that was growing up. Like I worked custom hay for quite a few years. And, it's like, you didn't know what day it was. Like I was driving down the road and I didn't know it was my birthday till I heard it on the radio. I was turning 16 too, by the way. It's like, hey, happy 16th birthday to Micah. He turns down. I'm like, hey guys, it's my birthday. I don't know if it was Tuesday or Sunday, because we worked every day, and you didn't have iPhones. You didn't have anything that told you what day it was. You just got up and went to work because they woke you up. And then fair came, and I remember you could smell perfume from about 900 yards because you hadn't seen anybody with the morons you're working with all summer long. And then you hit fair and Roundup Labor Day weekend, and then you had Monday off, and then you went to school on Tuesday. But yeah, that was the big. Summer's pretty much over. We got everything in. Good harvest. Time for a little community gathering. Then away you went. That's a great point.
You kind of have an appreciation for what you have around you. And it's interesting to me to hear you talk about New York, and you get Amazon that afternoon and everything you could want's within 2 blocks. And it's hard to grasp that kind of a lifestyle, especially clear out here where we're at. You don't take for granted what you do have, and because then every time you leave to go get something, if you have to go somewhere, you try to think of what you're going to pick up that you don't have, because it's a ways to go get it. So
yeah, and that's how, growing up, it would be a couple weeks sometimes before you'd get something.
We don't the bodega that Joel was talking about.
No, like we had a little. So I grew up in a little tiny town called Pine Creek. It was like 130 people. It says on the sign, maybe 110. And there was the post office / general store, which had a few things in it. You certainly weren't going to go there for your weekly shopping. It was more like snacks, and if you ran out a can of tuna fish or something, there's 15 miles to town to Lakeview, which had a Safeway and then a local store called Stewart's. So that was kind of your weekly shopping, if you will. But then like everybody always went to Klamath for the big shopping. Like if you're going to go school clothes, went to Klamath, or big sales, we're going to go get a big pile of groceries, or like once a month or so, every 2 months, you just had to get out of Dodge and we're going to go to Klamath. And you're just looking around to see what's new and see a stoplight, and just, that was one of the adventures. So you planned around that, and you tried to make sure you could make do in between all that. And so you didn't have to go. And, we had, like I said, we had massive garden and raised cows, and, we didn't really need much in town, but you got a few things. We didn't make yogurt, or we made butter when I was younger, but some things you could just almost get as easy, but you're just sort of conditioned that you had things on hand, and you planned for the long interim, and it wasn't like a daily purchase. Cause we had a big house, we had a shop, we had a barn, and we built a big, walk-in kind of pantry cooler thing in, so you could keep everything for you just stored up, had your harvest. So
Yep.
that was one of my Airbnb guests from Holland, and like he shared an apartment or a flat, as he called it, with 3 other people. It was about the size of my kitchen. That was like their entire place. And like they had a refrigerator about the size of a suitcase, And so like he had to buy dinner like every day when he came home. He'd stop at a little market, get like chicken breast and a piece of cheese, and had a broccoli. Just physically, we're so many people, everything was so tiny that you couldn't store much of anything anyway. So you kind of have to live that hand to mouth. And when something haywire goes like we have now, that really puts an extra kink, I think, as we're talking about, that you have to still go to the bodega, it's just a different way of living, obviously.
No, I think about these, and it'd be fun at some point, especially if we do more video type stuff here. Chris Paul would be fun to.
That would be great.
He's lived in all parts of China, and I think he's in Africa or somewhere in that region now, and been in the Middle East. There's just been a lot of neat places he's lived, and it'd be fun just to hear his experiences along those lines and how people live their life. And
I couldn't agree more. Yeah, Chris is amazing. I love when I get a chance to talk to him. Usually at Roundup, we'll have some sort of semi-intellectual conversation. Just his point of view, his experiences, where he's got to go, what he can talk about. It's just every time I shake somebody's hand, I think about Chris talking about the different things he's learned about just a handshake. Yeah.
Neat guy to just listen to things that he's got to say.
Yeah, it's way more entertaining than me. Yeah, he's got some cool stuff
over there. What's up, Chris? How's it going?
Hey, buddy.
So, hopefully, I know he gets on Facebook every now and then, so maybe he'll see some of this.
That would be great. Yeah, it'd be awesome. It would be, and then like there's going to be people we haven't thought of yet that are going to come out. Like my buddy John Boy, I was talking to the other day, that called and was crying, laughing from listening to us talk about bull testing. Was pulled off the road. One of my like sales mentors, and we hadn't talked for a year or so probably, and we talked a couple times in the past week for over an hour each time, and just catching up and telling a couple stories, and figured out what he's doing now, and so. Yeah, that hopefully that'll keep continuing and spurring other people to get talked to him.
Absolutely. No, and I guess talking about Chris kind of got me thinking about talking about veterans and whatnot, like yourself, and somebody that I think would be an absolute hoot to get on for one episode would be Neener.
Steve. Totally. Yeah.
Just the stories and his perspective on life and
his goggles. To see life through his goggles would be, you could charge almost anything for that. Like, what was that movie? Like Being John Malkovich. I don't know if you ever saw that, but it was like there's this weird deal. You could like crawl in this little door and you became John Malkovich, the actor. You could be becoming Neener or becoming Hi Steve. That's a carnival ride you could charge anything for. It would be amazing. Yeah. And I've missed a lot of the classic Hi Steve stories. I've been around for a few of them and I cherished them, but just some of the ones I've heard, is your dog bite? Only men in uniform. Some of the stories I've heard just kill me. I completely agree. To get Neener would be, Hi Steve. Yeah. It's funny too. Like you can tell a portion about somebody's life, or when you met them, based on the nickname you called them by.
There's definitely some cherished moments in the past that have developed into the personality that you've given them.
Yeah, I think, and that was one of the things that when we talked about starting this is kind of shedding some light on some of those characters that we've got a chance to know and meet and be part of. Obviously had influence on us in good and bad ways, but for just to kind of help people like see, because I just feel so lucky, I guess, and that sounds so cliched, but I feel lucky to have known the people I've known and still know and will meet, but to get a chance to share some of those stories and introduce some people to these other morons that I know, I think that's one of the great things I hope to get accomplished as we move forward on this, is just that exact thing. Like, everybody should meet Pot Roast. You're going to be different, everybody should meet Hi Steve and Steve Hill, and like all these cool people that we've gathered and just different places. Yeah. We need to hear some stories about your time on that big ranch in Nevada. I think there's some cool experiences there that not many people have certainly never done, but probably a lot of people don't even know or never heard or forgot too. I think that was a cool time of your life. Things like that, when you're hot shotting too, that's a unique deal. Get you and Erwinch just to tell some fire stories.
Debauchery there.
You do the statute of limitations is pretty much up, I think.
I hope so.
Almost, yeah. But it's just those sort of highlights. Those people, like, there's only one Erwinch running around. I mean, thank God. But consider her one of my good friends that I don't get to see near enough anymore. But going to sitting in math class freshman year of college with her and Mo. It's a miracle. I made it through year one of school. That freshman year we rolled in there, we shook a lot of people up, and so yeah. And then and then going to college with Crabgale, that was part two. I don't know what I did to deserve that, but it aged me horribly to take both those women and go through college with them. That was more than one man should have to do. I mean, I love them like beyond sisters, and they know, I've told them this 100 times, like, you guys age me horribly, especially Crabgale. She's way too high strength for college.
Oh, the soup sandwich.
I mean, yeah, the dumpster fire, when it's summer. School doesn't start till like September. It's June. She's trying to buy her books. I'm like, there's books. Yeah, don't worry about that. Let me tell you. Yeah, like you and I go to school differently, but yeah. What you do is you go to the bookstore before the test and you read it in the bookstore as you're walking around, or now you can take a picture with your phone. I used to just make copies of it and then go or borrow somebody else's book. But yeah, I'm like, geez, you don't know until like a week or two in the class you're going to need the book. So it's June. Relax. Go home. Yeah.
Yeah, you didn't know how to have a good time if you hadn't hung with the evil girls.
I really, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Erwinch, Crabgale, love you so much.
Yeah. There's the Semiotic Screw would be fun to kind of.
Oh yeah.
It'd be hard to assimilate them all at the same time, but
I don't think we got to do several sessions, then I'm willing to do that.
I don't know if it'd be right if you didn't. So.
Yeah, I would have to have a night at the H for sure. It's not the same crowd, but we still have to have a night at the H, and then the semis heard. Yeah, and then there's a lot of just how far back you want to go in the stories, So yeah, because there's some pretty decent high school ones with my friends that still talk to me. That was a great thing about going to the Lake County for the roundup. This year was a 100-year roundup, and so I got to spend some time with some really good buddies I hadn't seen in way too long, and scary. We just picked up right where we left off. That was, a lot of their children are like, oh, this is the guy you were always blaming stuff on and talking about, So, yeah.
No, I'd like to catch up with more of my high school buddies. I see a couple of them fairly frequent, but I haven't been to a class reunion or any of that stuff, but there's definitely some guys that we need to see again after 25 years. So.
Yeah, a lot of mine scattered. Some are still home, but some of them are all across the winds, if you will. It's just one of those things we just don't take the time. Sometimes we do. If something happens weird or I see them on the news or something, then you talk to them. But why don't we in between? I don't know. So
yeah,
it's weird that way.
You'll probably find it hard to believe, but I wasn't a real social butterfly back then either. So
why not? Or else we've been good friends. You don't have to BS me. All right. I know. Yeah. I can hermit. Yeah. It's
yeah.
And I can't blame you there. Yeah. So that's it's very therapeutic at times. But yeah, I have to be entertained every so often, or entertain somebody else. Can't help it. So, but I don't know. Well, we kind of wanted to give everybody a little more insight into a little bit more about who we are, in case you didn't know us or didn't know everybody. We were going to try to get Richard and Mr. Joel on here, but schedules didn't all line up, and that's okay. We'll get them next time. You know, it's kind of what what's it called, Rawls and I, kind of the co-founders of this chaos. If you're going to blame anybody, blame us. You know, and so yeah, I wanted to give some more insight, just chat a bit more about why we do this a little bit, how it got started, hopefully what we want to talk about in the future. You know, encourage everybody to get ideas to us, or people, or help us. You know, we might need some help herding people up and getting who we get on here next. But we thought we'd give this a try and see how it rolls. I'd certainly like to add more video to the weekly one as well. But you know, we're starting off simple, and that's usually good for us. So yeah. It'd be great to get some action of Rawley when he's out, you know, feeding or calving or what he might be doing. You know, it might just be phone tossed. Yeah.
I'm gonna have to get a phone with a working camera to do that though. But,
and a good battery. Yeah. We might have to pitch you to get you a new phone. I need to check on my plan and see if I got any extras.
This one was new, but
well, yeah, at one time, I'm sure. Yeah.
Well, the camera never did work on it. It's probably operator. So
there's a distinct possibility, but I've never had to like activate the phone or the camera on my phone. It usually just runs. So
yeah,
I don't know. And if you're, let's just be honest, if your wife can't figure it out, it's probably more than a technical or it's more probably broken. So yeah. But so yeah, we'll work on that. We'll get you a phone that you can actually see with the camera.
I can just turn it around.
Yeah, it works. It's a little. Then you're just like the eternal selfie, and it'll be like, Ross, scoot over to the left. No, the other left, and it'll be like talking to Richard. So that's going to be frustrating. Yeah. My poor Richard. But Rawley, any final words of wisdom, or any, I guess, initial words of wisdom for us? Not really final, and be. I mean, I appreciate you squeezing this into your week and having the idea and kind of helping spur this along, and just kind of keeping with it. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, no, I think it's a lot more fun to be a bit ahead of us. So
yeah, I hope so. Yeah, definitely.
It's a good way to keep up with your friends that you don't get to be around anymore, and still have the same kind of chaotic conversation we always had. So.
Exactly. Yeah, it makes me appreciate those days and keeps my my storytelling skills sharpened, since I don't hang out with the gang like I used to. You know, I don't have a gang here in Lincoln like I did in P-Town or Lakeview, because that's impossible for everybody's safety. So yeah, that's good to kind of get the skills back up, you know. So because I'm gonna run into pot roast sometime, I gotta be on point. So
for sure. Yeah.
Oh, awesome. Well, we've already talked like almost an hour. I think it's got to be getting close. We're 45 minutes maybe, so it's gone by fast. But I appreciate you jumping on this afternoon. I know you guys got stuff going on, and you got Hoppy over there doing things and probably giving them the evil eye by now. But or she probably just left. Yeah.
We're gonna go. Well, I'm going to. She might be going with me to do some evening chores and go run through the cows. So.
Outstanding. Well, Rawls, thanks again. Can't tell you how much I appreciate your time, and also just kind of helping me keep just pointed in a direction until we got something going, and still now. So means a lot, and we'll hopefully be doing some more of this, and we'll keep on keeping on from there.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody. If you got questions, comments, make sure you get them to us, and enjoy, and we'll see you guys soon.